Welcome, dear students. My name is D.N. Sukla from LPM Public School. Dear student, this is the second video of the explanation of the chapter, The Inexperienced Ghost of class 7th. In my last video, I explained the page number 30, and now the rest part of the story is I am going to explain. At this time we are at page number 31, and I am going to start from this paragraph. He said he had preferred to flit up and down the room if it was all the same to me. Now the ghost was telling to the narrator, Clayton, that he had preferred to fly up and down the room if it was all the same to him. There he was semi-transparent, and the ghost was semi-transparent, half-transparent, noiseless, except for his ghost of voice. He was noiseless, only he was speaking the voice of the ghost, and flitting to and fro in that nice. He was flying here and there, and that was nice. Clean old bedroom. He cleaned the old bedroom, and you can see the gleam of the copper candlesticks through him. And there he was telling me all about his life that had recently ended on earth. And the ghost was transparent. You could see the gleam of the copper candlesticks through his body. And the ghost was he was telling all about his life that had recently happened with him, the incidents, whatever happened with him recently, and that had been ended on the earth. And where are you now? I asked. Clayton asked the ghost about where he were. Then the ghost replied, nothing. He wasn't clear at all. Wherever he was, they seemed to think haunting a tremendous adventure, and so he. Dear student, the ghost was not clear about at all. Wherever he was, he seemed to think that haunting was a tremendous adventure, and so he had come to do that. The mess he had made of haunting and the disorder he had made of haunting had saddened him terribly, had depressed him terribly. He had expected to be fun. He thought that haunting would become fun for him, but he distressed. I got up briskly. Don't brood on these things too much. The narrator, Clayton, got up fastly and prevented the ghost not to think on these things, not to disturb by these things too much. I said, you have got to pull yourself together and try. Hit it. The narrator advised the ghost that to pull himself together and try to do that. A complicated series of gesture and movements with the hands. Then the ghost started many complex series of gesture and movements with his hand. That's how he had come in, and that's how he had to get out again. So he was practicing, he was trying many complex series of gestures, and he was trying to confirm that how had come in and how had to get out while using the hands, movements of hands, arms. These are the gestures. After a fearful time, he got his movements right and suddenly disappear. After a fearful time, when he got the right movement of his hands, then he suddenly disappeared. It was tremendous. There we were, this thin ghost and I, in that silent room, in this club, and it was tremendous thing that the narrator and the ghost both were in that room, in that silent room, in that club. Not a sound except our eyes. There was one candle on the dressing table, a light, that was all. I can't, he said, I shall never. And suddenly he sat down. Dear student, the ghost was at, in that club, and he was silent. The narrator was also silent. There were no voice. Only there was one candle on the dressing table, that was a light, and that was all. And the ghost said, I can't, I shall never, mean he was disappointed. And suddenly he sat down at the foot of the bed and began to sob. Then what happened? Suddenly the ghost sat down at the foot of the bed and began to sob, began to weep. You have to pull yourself together, I said to him, and try, and to encourage him, I began to try as well. The narrator encouraged the ghost, suggested him that he had to pull himself together and try, and also to encourage him, the narrator also began to try as well. At last he did it. I know, he said. At last the ghost was able to do the perfect gesture, and he replied, he knew. What do you knew? The narrator asked that what he knew. He replied, I knew. He repeated the same thing. Then he said, piously, I can't do it if you look at me. Then he replied and annoyed the narrator and said he couldn't do that if the narrator looked at him. I am a nervous fellow. He informed that he was a nervous fellow. Well, we had a bit of an argument. Then they both had a bit of argument between them. Naturally, I wanted to see, but he was as obstinate as a mule. The narrator was wanted to see his performance, his actions, but he was obstinate. So that is why, all right, I said, I won't look at you, and turned toward the mirror by the bed. So that is why the narrator agreed and turned her face toward the mirror by the bed. He started off very fast. Around went his arms and his hands, and then with a rush came to the last gesture of all. After that, the ghost started off very fastly. He started to round his arms and his hands, and then, with a rush, came and he made the last gesture. You stand erect and open out your arms. The narrator suggested him that he should stand vertical and open out his arms. And as so, the ghost stood, and then he didn't. But even the ghost had not able to do the perfect. I wheeled around from the looking glass to him. The narrator was sitting on a wheelchair, so he wheeled around to look toward the ghost. There was nothing. I was alone. What had happened? Had I been dreaming? And then the clock upon the landing struck on pink. The narrator thought that there was nothing, only he was alone. So he thought that he was dreaming. He surprised that what had happened, and then he heard the ping, the sound of the clock upon the landing step. One. And then you went to bed, asked Evans. Then Evans asked to Clayton that after happening these incidents, had you gone to the bed? What else was there to do? Replied Clayton that what else had been there to do. And about these moments, said Sanderson. Sanderson also asked about those moments. I believe I could do them now. Why don't you do them now? Said Sanderson. Clayton replied that he believed he could do all the things that had been happened right now. But Sanderson asked him that why he didn't do them now. That's what I'm going to do, said Clayton. Clayton replied that he was going to do that thing. You know, I had rather you don't, said Whis. Whis also wanted to do the same thing. So he informed that he had rather can do. And dear students, Clayton said, you are a very good liar. The writer said to Clayton that he was a very good liar, that disappearance happened to be convincing, that the disappearance of that ghost was hard to believe. Clayton stood up for a moment. He regarded his feet. Then after that, Clayton stood up at his feet and looked toward his feet. He raised his two hands slowly. After that, he raised his hands slowly and smiled at us all. And he smiled upon all his friends. But I think there was just a little hesitation at his smile. Okay? Then the author thought that he had a little hesitation in his smile. If I begin, he said, Clayton said, if I begin, I won't begin, said Whis. He was trying to say that if he had begun that gesture as the ghost was doing, he would be also vanished. So Whis said that he wouldn't begin. It's all right, said Evans. Evans said that everything was right. This sword is not going to snatch Clayton into the world of darkness. He was assuring them that this sword was not going to snatch Clayton into the world of the ghost, world of darkness. Whis stood up and put his arm on Clayton's shoulder. After that, one of his friend Whis stood up and put his arm on the shoulder of Clayton and said, "You are made me believe that story somehow, and I don't want to see the thing done." He said that he had believed on the story that had been narrated by Clayton, and he didn't want to see that thing done. "Goodness," said I. The author said, "Goodness." Whis is frightened, and also he said that Whis was fearing, and Whis replied he was fearing. I believe that if he goes through these motions, he will go. And he said that he believed that if he went through that motions, he would have gone to the world of ghost. He will do nothing of the sort. I cried. The writer cried that nothing that type of things would be happened. Clayton smiled back at him. "Whis," he said, and then Clayton smiled back at him, and he said, "Whis is right and the other are wrong." Whis was right and the other friends were wrong. I shall go. I shall get to the end, and as the last Swiss whistled through the air, this room will be vacant. You will be amazed, and a young gentleman will jump into the world of darkness. I am certain. Let the things be tried. Then Clayton said that he should go and he should get to the end, and when, as the last Swiss means, that is a type of sound, whistle through the air, the room would be vacant, and they would be amazed, and a young gentleman, who is Clayton, would jump into the world of darkness. He was certain. Let the thing be tried. "No," said Whis, and he stopped. Clayton raised his hand once more to repeat the ghost moments. After that, once again Clayton raised his hand and tried to do a same gesture as the ghost was doing. We sat with our eyes on Clayton. All the friends sat and gazed upon Clayton. Clayton bowed and swayed and waved his hands and arms before us. After that, Clayton waved. Firstly, Clayton bowed them and then waved his hands and arms before them, before their friends. The last gesture was to swing the arms out wide open, and his last gesture was to swing his arm out wide open with the face held up, and when at last he swung out his closing gesture, I ceased even to breathe. The author was seized. He was become breathless when Clayton at last He swung out his closing gesture. It was ridiculous. It was laughable, of course, but you know that ghost story feeling. So it was only a feeling of ghost story, and it was after dinner in an old house. Would he, after all? And they all were there at the old house after dinner. There he stood for one moment with his arms open and his face bright. Then Clayton stood for one moment with his arms open and his face was bright. We waited as if it were an age, and then come from all of us something that was half a sigh of relief and half a reassuring no, for visibly he wasn't going. So they all were sitting in that old house, and then there came from all of them something that was half a sigh of relief and half reassuring. And the Clayton was not going anywhere. He was not vanished. It was all nonsense. Whatever he was doing, that was nonsense. He had told a story, that was all. He had only narrated a story and nothing more. So, dear student, this is the explanation of the chapter. The name of the chapter is The Inexperienced Ghost of class 7th. So I hope you enjoy the story. This is the second part of the explanation of the story, and I hope you understand it well. Thank you very much for watching this video.